Thanks for joining me in my garden. I wanted to show you an area which I'm really in love with at the moment. First, I'm going to start with these beautiful native flowers, and they are Black-Eyed Susan. It's actually the Maryland state flower, and I can see why. It's just a spectacular, showy display. And let me tell you, the origin of this plant was it was blown over. It was a seed from my neighbor's yard, and it was either blown over or actually it could have been carried over by a bird, and it was planted somewhere unsuitable, and I recognized the leaves and planted it over here last year, and it is now a 3-foot wide bush of Black-Eyed Susans. So it really pays to be able to recognize the plants in your landscape that pop up naturally. This is just a native plant. My neighbor may have planted it, or it may have blown into his yard. I don't know. But look at that beautiful display. And I'm thrilled about that. The birds love it. The pollinators love it. I'm going to give you a close-up if I can and show you some of the seeds that are sitting on the leaves. I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but the birds come along and they eat the seeds out of here. And they just kind of scatter everywhere else. So I can pretty much expect a lot of different sprouts coming up next year as well, which I'll continue to transplant all around my yard. And let me take you over here. Now this is a beautiful mess of things, and next year I will definitely do things differently as far as planting things according to their height. But let me start over here and show you what I've got. So I put in this is the salvia that I took from cuttings from my front garden. And it's done well, and I expect next year it'll look really pretty here. These are some opal basil leaf cuttings, and I have big pots of that, but I've taken lots of different cuttings, given them to my friends, and also planted them around the garden. And they seem to be happy here. I have a good 8 weeks of warm weather, so I expect they'll fill in and look really nice there and be a nice purple accent, not too tall. It'll be perfect. Then I have back here a hardy kiwi. I just bought that at Home Depot, and it's really taken off. It's grown up the trellis. It's actually grown to the top of the trellis. So I expect it next year to bush out. Hopefully it's hardy as promised. And it will come back next year and have little kiwis all over it. We shall see. Time will tell. This is the first year that I have grown peppers. These are pepper plants here that I grew from grocery store peppers. They were yellow and orange. And right now, I just noticed the fruits coming out last week, and they're already getting so big. But they start out green, and then at some point they change to the color that they're meant to be. But it's covered, because we have a lot of pollinators coming through here. The flowers got pollinated, but it's covered with little baby peppers. And that's the bell pepper variety, I hope. We'll see. We'll see. You never know when you plant something from the grocery store exactly what you're going to get, but so far it's looking promising. And I had a very tall daisy plant here. This was from a package of seeds my son gave me last year. And I got a couple of wonderful plants, and they grow at least 3 feet tall, but I cut them back midsummer because they had gone past their prime, and daisies don't look very nice when they're past their prime. Now, it depends on the flower. Sometimes I'll leave the flower heads up for the birds. In this case, it really looked quite horrible, so I did chop it back mid-season, and as you can see, it flushed right back. And then in the back, obscured by some very big Brussels sprout plants, are some Russian sage plants. And they didn't do too well this year, I'm guessing because they were really in the shade of these tall Brussels sprouts, which next year, if I get any Brussels sprouts, I'll plant them again, but not in this space. But they're huge, and they are covered with white moth damage. The white moths love this, but they look so pretty fluttering around. I'm really not too upset. Part of the reason I grow so many plants in one space too is to improve the soil. The roots will till the soil. Once they break down, once they die, I'm going to chop and drop them and improve the soil that way, just kind of compost in place. So it's a mix of veggies and flowers, and it's worked out fine. We'll see. If they produce anything, it's just icing. And then over here, I have a spectacular stand of green envy zinnia. And I'm definitely going to plant these in the back of a bed next time. They're so tall, but they're magnificent. I think they've been my absolute favorite zinnia this year. My first year growing these. Again, it's the green envy version of the zinnia, green envy. And this is a double flower, and a few of them came up as singles. So I don't know why that happens. It happens quite a bit. You don't always get a full stand of double flowers, but they're both pretty, and I've cut both of them to bring inside in floral arrangements. But they've been spectacular, and my eventual plan for this garden is to keep it in a palette of green, white, and purple. That's going to be my eventual plan. Next year, I'm going to aim for that, I think. And then behind it, unfortunately, it's a little obscured by the tall zinnias, is a gorgeous garden element here. And this is a sundial that my friend Lori asked her husband to mount on this gorgeous pedestal. It's a beautiful cement pedestal. I think it took him 3 days to get that mounted on top. And it's so spectacular, and it was a wonderful, wonderful gift from wonderful friends. So grateful for that. But it is so beautiful. And next year I will plant some flowers that are much shorter so we can continue to enjoy that all season. And then let me go over here. So these are my white echinacea, and they're looking like a mess, but again, I like the birds to be able to eat the seeds. So I'm actually thinking about leaving them up all fall and winter, cutting them back late winter, once I know all the seeds have been eaten. But I've come out here and caught some goldfinches. They're just beautiful. Eating right from the flower head. They sit right on the stem and pick out the seeds. And I think I would rather have goldfinches than a perfect garden. So many of my flowers I will leave on even though they've gone over, and let the wildlife enjoy it. I think it's important to support the wildlife in your garden. And then this does not go with my green, white, and purple theme, so they'll probably be moved next year. They're not a perennial, but they throw out lots of seeds. So any sprouts that come up, I'll probably transplant, and I also do save seed from this one. This is the Sunshine Mix of Cosmos, and this was another package of seeds my son gave me for Mother's Day. And I saved the seed from last year's plants and tossed them out here, and look at what came up. An amazing, incredible stand of Cosmos. Again, very tall for the front of the flower bed. So next year, I will plant that towards the back of my flower beds. Live and learn. I'm just getting back to gardening. So, you have to see what works. And I just believe in just planting thickly and seeing what works and what you like. But the lower Cosmos are yellow, and the taller ones are orange. And it's such a beautiful, beautiful mix. And I'll be doing a video on how to save seed from this very easy variety. And the foliage is really pretty too. Even before it has flowers, it's got this feathery, beautiful foliage. Beautiful color, beautiful texture. And I'm just thrilled with that plant. And it's so rewarding when you grow flowers and plants from seed. And then here's a better view of my eaten up Brussels sprouts. So we'll see. We'll see if the bug damage affects the production. But I was hoping in the fall to have some Brussels sprouts, and I'll let you know. Then over here I have some front of the border plants in the back of the border. And these are around my sun globe tomatoes, which are yellow tomatoes. Here's some green ones developing, but they turn yellow. And they're a small to medium-sized tomato, but it's done really well in this sunny spot and been a productive plant. So I would recommend that variety. But my marigolds are protecting that. It's a good companion plant for tomatoes. And then this tall stem, which has already gone over to seed, is Liatris. And this was purple, and I had one white one mixed in over there. And I was thrilled to have the mix of the two. But once this is completely dry, you can just run your hand down it and you'll have tons of seed. I've also found the birds hanging off the stems here and eating the seeds straight from the flower stalk. So that's another one that supports the wildlife. And then over here, I have a beautiful, huge hydrangea. And this was a hydrangea that my mother-in-law brought over 26 years ago. And she had gotten it as a gift and enjoyed it in her apartment. And once the flowers died back, she brought it over for us to plant. And 26 years later, we have this huge, it's probably 6 by 6 foot wide plant. Every year it puts out beautiful blue blooms. And everybody should have loads of hydrangeas in their garden. They're just easy, wonderful, rewarding plants. And the best part is I get to think about my wonderful mother-in-law, a wonderful woman. Every time I look at this plant, every time I bring flowers in, I think of her. So that's what makes a lot of my plants special, is where I've gotten them. And then down here, these were seed grown, started in a tray in the spring. They might have even been winter sown in a milk jug, I think. But this is sorrel, red veined sorrel. And I've been sauteing this up. I've also made some sorrel powder from this. And it's almost like a spinach, but it's got a lemony flavor. So it's really best used as more of a spice and an accent. They're great in eggs, but I expect they come back every year. They're perennial, and they've done really well, and they're a really, really beautiful. At some points of the year, they look more red, but they're a really beautiful plant. If I zoom in, you can see the red veins on there, but I love that plant. And then this is a cauliflower looking like a mess. Again, the white moths have done a number on it. Also, slugs love brassicas. And then back here, I have some veronica grown from seed. And I know you are supposed to cut this back mid-season, but since it was a brand new plant, I wanted it to really flush out and have the benefit of soaking up a lot of sun and nutrients while it was up. But even in the first year, it did give me flowers. And this is a great attractor of the pollinators. Also, ladybugs love veronica. So if you want to avoid having aphids in your garden, bring in the ladybugs by planting some veronica. It also comes in white, I know, but I chose purple. And then I have a wild forsythia here, and I like the wild stature. I like the structure of a forsythia that's in its natural state, so I don't prune it back and hedge it the way some people do. But that's it. That's it for my side garden, my triangle garden. So it's a beautiful mess, and definitely lessons learned this year as far as where to plant things in relation to their height. But I definitely have things I will be growing next year, and things I will be moving to other spaces, and maybe a few I won't be growing. But right now, this is my favorite garden. So thanks so much for joining me, guys, and I'll see you next time.